and welcome back to another episode of The Book Stop. I'm your host Jen, and I'm very excited to talk about today's episode. But before we begin, there will be spoilers as we talk about major events that unfold within the story. In addition, each episode will have a list of trigger warnings in the description. Be sure to follow the podcast on Instagram at The Book Stop Podcast, and show your support on Patreon for early access to episodes and other additional content. And welcome back to another episode of The Book Stop. This is a little crazy, it's a little wild, but this is not only the beginning of the third year of The Book Stop with none other than Kim.
Hi.
But this is also the 50th episode of The Book Stop, which is awesome. But just want to do like a huge shout out for anybody who's been here since day one, who's listened to the 5th season, who has listened to Obelisk Gate, and who has listened to now The Stone Sky.
Yes.
But yeah, just thank you, even if this is, you're just clicking onto this episode today, or if you started back in 2020, hello, welcome to The Book Stop, and let's hop into it. But yes, we are with Kim today. Kim, you brought us what exactly, and why did you bring it?
Well, this book is called The Stone Sky by N.K. Jemisin, and it is the third and final installment in the Broken Earth Trilogy. As previously mentioned, Jen and I discussed the first two in other episodes, so if you haven't listened to those, go check them out, and then land here and have a good time. And if you have not read the stories at all, even if you're getting them spoiled by us right now in these episodes, please go read them. I feel like we stumbled into these books by accident. We're like, oh yeah, these look kind of cool, let's do this one. And then I've had such a good time and really want to read the whole thing again. So 10 out of 10 would recommend the whole series.
I think that this is a series that you could reread over and over again and find something new every single time. I reread it this time around. It's been a while since I read the books, and I wanted to get a fresh new view of it when I came in through the third book. And I saw so many things I literally completely blew right over the first two times reading this. And also going to be barely scraping the surface of what we're going to talk about today on just this hour of talking. Like Kim said, please pick up this series. It is amazing. You're going to have a great time. You're going to learn a lot of things, and you're going to just dive right into the world that Jemisin has created for us.
True. You will literally laugh. You will literally cry. You will have such a good time.
But yeah, The Stone Sky, written in 2017, N.K. Jemisin. And I want to just give a huge shout out to Robin Miles. She narrates the audiobook.
Oh, nice. Hell yeah, Robin.
And does such a great job. So to get started, we're going to play a little game.
Okay.
You do this every time, Kip. You know.
I do, and every time I'm nervous about it. Especially this one, I feel like I'm especially nervous.
You were going to summarize this book in 30 seconds. Try your best.
Okay.
And you may begin whenever you're ready.
Okay, so 2 words, mommy issues. Nasun and Esun are sort of battling for the fate of the world in this book, and it really crescendos in the end. As we get there, Nasun, who is an abused child of Esun, is very angry. She wants to kill the world. She wants to kind of just fucking kill everybody at this point. She comes back from killing her dad in the second book, so she's grr, angry, want to kill everything. But stuff happens, and then Esun is don't do that, la 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 la, and then Esun dies, spoiler alert, and then Nasun is oh, I guess I'm gonna just save the world now because my mom's dead. And so she saves the world and puts the moon back in orbit, and everything's happily ever after. And then Hoa is I made the story. That's it.
There you go. Great job.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm going to summarize it for anybody who hasn't heard of the story, and of course, this is the last of the trilogy, so if you're missing some information, you might want to listen to the first 2 podcasts, or, read the books. The moon will soon return. Whether this means the destruction of humankind, or something worse, will depend on 2 women. Esun has inherited the power of Alabaster Ten Ring. With it, she hopes to find her daughter, Nesun, and forge a world in which every origin child can grow up safe. But she is slowly turning into stone, and time is running thin. For Nesun, her mother's mastery of the Obelisk Gate comes too late. She has seen the evil in the world, and she accepts what her mother will not admit, that sometimes what is corrupted cannot be cleansed, only destroyed. The 2 race to the end, each with their own agenda of what needs to be saved, one person or the entire world.
Damn. That's deep.
I was really excited to get into this book, especially because it was a 3-year-long track.
Mm-hmm.
I tried really hard not to get into it and finish the books before we did the podcast, because I wanted to be my first initial thoughts of reading the book while it was still like fresh.
Me too. Because I know also, like, when I read a book, I don't retain a ton of the details the first time I read it. And so I kind of have like a nebulous sort of view on the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I read a book the second time and I get all of those details, my view can kind of change.
Mm-hmm.
Usually it's not like I won't go from like a straight negative to a straight positive or anything, but it'll just kind of like enhance my view.
Yeah, absolutely. Kim, what is your favorite quote from this book?
The entire book, and I think I probably made this same like dad joke about the second one, but honestly, incredible. There is one that kind of stuck out to me, and I tried to find one that wouldn't be like online on everybody else's favorite quotes, but unfortunately this one was on everybody else's favorite quotes. I'm like, God damn it.
That's okay. If it's good, it's good.
Yeah, it's really good, and it's very like concise. So my favorite quote is, "When the world is hard, love must be harder still." And I feel like that is very simple and yet very deep thing to say, because we've all heard that like love trumps hate, etc., and it sounds so overdone in a sense, and it's very hard to like get that to really stick inside of you. But the way that this is worded, specifically in the context of this trilogy, is like so much more impactful, I feel like, especially because literally just saying the world is hard, love must be harder still, also kind of relates literally just to like the geology of it, you know, the rocks, the stone eaters, etc., the obelisks. It's very on topic, it's very on theme with sort of literally the hardness of all of these things. But it's very true. I don't know, it's very nice. It's, you know, when the world is hard, love must be harder still.
This is a great quote for Esun and Nesun, mother and daughter. The world is hard, and her mother, Esun, was seen as such a mean person to Nesun because she was hard on her, because she did love her, but knew that the world was going to kill her one day for just simply who she was. So she had to be harder on her and act out in the way that she did, because she knew that if she was soft, then she wasn't going to make it.
Yeah. This is something I kind of wanted to talk about later, but we're on it right now. Have you seen the movie Everything Everywhere All at Once?
No, I've seen the previews for it, but I've not seen it yet.
Okay, do you mind if I say something that's vaguely spoilery, but not really?
Yeah, I mean, you gave a spoiler warning, so I don't mind.
Okay, perfect. So I think that this story, The Stone Sky, relates a lot to that film, just in the sense that like survival tactics learned by a parent in like an oppressive society can negatively impact their child, because the parents tend to be projecting sort of their own abuses in an attempt to arm their children for this oppressive world and the racism that they're going to experience. And yet this tends to often harm the child and like secondhand abuse the child a little bit. And it is still also helpful and it does arm them, but it's a very difficult balance of a situation. And I think this is something that a lot of people can relate to, and especially this story relates to Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Yeah, it gets the opposite effect. Is like they're trying to make them stronger, but in turn it makes them weaker, because then they kind of lose that trust ability, because your parents are supposed to be the first people that you trust, and if they're teaching you these ways and treating you this way, it kind of shuts those doors for the possibility in the future. And you see that a lot with Nesun.
Oh yeah, 100%.
So my quote is, "You take a deep breath, extend a hand to him. So much of your past keeps coming back to haunt you. You can never forget where you come from, because it won't resting let you. But maybe Ika got the right of it. You can reject those dreads of your old self and pretend that nothing and no one else matters. Or you can embrace them, reclaim them for what they're worth, and grow stronger as a whole." I think it really just speaks for itself. Coming from Esun's point of view on it, you know, she has lost everyone she has ever loved, and she knows the reality of that. So it holds her back, especially with her coming to Kostrima. It really holds her back with establishing any relationship with anybody there. In the end, it is what saves Nesun. She knows falling down the rabbit hole and kind of retracing her steps isn't going to save anybody. It didn't save her first son. It didn't save Alabaster, and it's not going to save Nesun. I just really love that line so much.
That quote kind of reminds me a little bit of, there was a quote in season 7 of Game of Thrones. The quote itself was terrible, but what they meant to say in that quote, I think, was important. And the quote was Sansa Stark saying something along the lines of like, "Oh, I wouldn't be what I am today without all of the abuses I've endured." But the way that it was worded felt very like, oh, I'm thankful to the people that have hurt me because it made me who I am.
Yeah.
When in reality, I know what they were going for, and what they should have really said was something along the lines of like, it's not that she's grateful to these people who have harmed her, it's that she's grateful for herself, that through this she was able to overcome and become stronger within herself.
Yeah.
Life is hard like a rock.
No. What is some things that you really liked about this book?
Okay, so I really loved that we got extra history in this book. We got a lot of, we started off pretty much getting like, okay, here's Hoa's backstory once and for all kind of thing. And I really loved that because there was so much. First of all, that felt like it brought about a whole new world in a lot of ways. We got to see like this time in the Earth's history that was simultaneously advanced and yet still socially very medieval. All the technology was advanced and yet the leaders, so to speak, were incredibly oppressive and incredibly abusive. So much so that they like literally used people's bodies as batteries. It was like fucked up. Yeah, I did think that was interesting to be able to see that whole new world, even if it was like scary and tragic and terrible. But it was cool because it was like, this whole series feels very, I guess medieval is also a good word. Not like necessarily in the torture of it all, but this whole series feels very medieval time, but like plus magic, so to speak. But Hoa's background made it very clear that like, no, this society is like future, right? Like it's a future society, if anything, which is kind of crazy. But I really liked that.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. I have my own opinions about Hawa's chapters, which we'll get to. We'll get to in a little bit. So
okay, all right. Another thing that I loved specifically about this book, Esun's thoughts and emotions when she lost her breast and everything that moment meant. I am a woman, and there's a lot that I feel like I very much understood from that. I'm not a mother and I'm not nursing, so like I don't have those experiences to draw on, but that sort of relation with my body being like incredibly important, and yet I kind of feel like it's a throwaway, if that makes sense. Like when she lost her arm, it felt a little bit more she was willing to lose that and being like, well, I guess I just lost my arm. Bye, arm. And then when it came time that she lost her breast, it was very interesting because it's like she was simultaneously okay with it and at the same time not okay with it.
To bridge the gap between like her arm and her breast is like her arm, it was already changing. So she didn't get to choose that it was going. It was already gone. With her breast, she got to choose which was the next thing to go. And yeah, that internal debate of like which one to choose. She chose the one that Nesun, the one that she loved the most. Like when she was a baby, that's when she nursed off the most. I really do like that as well. And that symbology of breast cancer nowadays and how it has a parallel, almost a presence in ours. So I feel like it's some people that have that kind of history can lean into. And I know at the time that Jemisin was also like losing her mom when she was writing this book.
Yes. Okay. I'm glad that you knew that. I know you did your research, but like, yeah.
Yeah, she was also losing her mom. So at the end, it also kind of like pulls into that. So that's what I really like about Jemisin's work is that she pulls from our culture and our real world parallels and is able to mask it so well where it feels like something new. So we have to like kind of manually think of our own responses to seeing it in a different light, even though it's so much parallel to ours.
Yeah, 100%. And I honestly didn't even recognize this until I kind of just talked about it out loud, but that whole moment too when she's losing her breast, I think is like also a little bit like she is to make a step towards letting go of Nesun. Like, I don't think she does it fully, but like, I don't even know. Not even letting go of Nesun, but like letting go of the child that she knew. Because Nesun is a different person now, an incredibly different person. And so I feel like that's symbolic in that way as well.
Anything else that you liked about it?
Okay, so this one right here I have is kind of a little bit of a controversial take. I really liked Nesun just throughout this entire book. I don't necessarily agree with her throughout all of this, but I really liked that her character felt incredibly real. Kind of in the way that, like, in the 5th Harry Potter book, you know how, like, that's, like, the most angsty version of Harry Potter? And a lot of people hate that one. That one's one of my favorite ones. And I think it's because it's so real. When you're growing up, you have these times where you're just fucking angry and grumpy and angsty and you're not a great person to be around and you're not really fully yourself because you're a teenager and you're brain is still growing and your body's changing and all of this stuff, and it's a very difficult time.
Right.
Yeah, but even at 11, you're still going through it. You're still
It's like middle school age. You're going through it.
Soon to be a teenager, you're preteen age, and so like things are kind of wild and you're kind of just like angry. And especially if you've gone through everything that she's gone through.
Exactly. Yeah.
It sort of ages you up. You're losing more of your innocence,
Yeah.
so to speak. Nasun, while she was like kind of really annoying in like her constant being like, I'm gonna kill everybody, at the same time I was like, I like this a lot from a storytelling perspective because it is so real to this character.
Yeah. So some of my likes, I really enjoyed the complex world building, the seasons, and the fulcrum and the comms, and just how she describes everything is just so chef's kiss.
God, her imagery is rich. It's a well-baked cake from like a 5-star pastry. 5-star bakery. I don't know what I'm talking about, but it's like, it's just so incredible. Yeah,
it's amazing, and I could go on and on and on about this next point, but I just love it. And I know I talked about it in the other ones, but the women in power and the people of color in power, just like the way she just writes the women in power is just so amazing, and it's so refreshing. It's just so nice to see where a man isn't in charge and making stupid calls all the time. And you get to see a little bit more of Ika in this. Not enough that you get to kind of understand Ika's point of view a little bit, but enough where you can kind of relate to her. I wish there was a little bit more, but I just loved Ika, and I just loved all of them, all of the characters. I also really enjoyed the orogeny and like the magic scale, and she introduced the silver in the last book and then a lot more in this one. I just love the way, because magic scales and like magic system is so hard to not just be a repeat of something else.
Oh my god, yeah.
Yeah, another kind of refreshing take on it.
Yeah, I know we talked about this a lot even in the first one, but really just this style of a fantasy world is so new and, like you're saying, so refreshing, because pretty much any fantasy world that we've seen, you know, in popular media is, like you said, a rehash of another, in a sense. It's like, okay, we're getting elves, we're getting dwarves, we're getting ice powers, yay, kind of thing, which fucking love it still. But like, this is such a style of fantasy that we've never really seen before, and especially in popular media. And speaking of popular media, this is being made into a TV series, isn't it? Yes, I'm so ready.
Yeah, and then we're obviously going to do it on your podcast.
Yes, which technically my podcast is technically for movies, but this I think will be the one exception, because what a great series, and you and I have had like a journey with this series that needs to be completed.
If you guys don't know, Kim does have a podcast, and you guys gotta check it out. I'll put in the link in the description, but that one won't be out for a while.
Probably not.
It is called Movie Theater Butter.
Yeah, your favorite flavor of popcorn.
Well, let's go. That's actually like one of my talking points. Since we're here, we'll just like throw it in really quick.
Yeah, is how incredible the title of my podcast is.
Yeah,
is that
that's actually the like number one topic I talk about in every single one of my podcasts. But no, it's like the public view of this book. It's like, where are all the freaking fans, bro? Where's all the fan art?
Right?
Where are the movies?
We got in on the ground level. I'm telling you, dude. We got in before it got cool, because the second that show comes out, this is going to be everywhere.
Yeah, it should be everywhere. It absolutely deserves to be everywhere. Interested to know what the cast looks like. And I was looking up some like fan art, and I couldn't find a single thing. Not a single thing.
There's like a hint of fan art for like the first one and the second one, and then there's like nothing for this. But yeah, I think I remember the last time I looked up fan art was like a year ago. But even then there was like
not a lot. I
don't know, maybe like 10 pieces. That's it.
Well, we need more. We need more fans. We need to really blow this up, and I'm hoping with the TV show that it does that. And I hope it does it justice. Because obviously it's going to be nowhere near as good as the books. No matter what they do. There's just too much in it.
And as somebody who, again, literally hosts a podcast where we talk about adaptations and the adapting process, the key thing for that will be, as it always is, having the author involved. The more that you have N.K. Jemisin involved in the process and able to make impactful creative decisions, the better it will be.
Yes, absolutely. Hopping back to the rest of my likes, I love the jumps of perspectives. Anybody that listens to Book Stop knows I love POVs, and I really like this one because it's the first introduction, obviously the whole series, but introduction of the you perspective that I've ever read. But the I and the me and the you and the she and the her, they felt like characters themselves. I just really enjoyed this new look onto the perspectives. It could be something different and new. And the last thing I have is I like that the characters aren't all just completely lovable. They're all selfish in their own ways, which makes them more realistic.
Yes. Yeah. Well, like even Nesun, you know, like she was on one hand incredibly annoying and on the other hand still like I loved her. That is, I feel like that's crucial to the story, is understanding that every single character in the story is so incredibly complex. I think I can only say that about like maybe 2 or 3 other book series that I would say specifically that point, that they have incredibly complex characters. You know, one of the only other book series that I would say that about is like Game
Twilight?
of Thrones.
Oh,
We went very different directions.
Completely.
Yeah, Bella Swan is one of the most complex characters I've ever read. So can I ask you actually though, while you're talking about point of views and that sort of thing, what are your thoughts on Hoa's reveal to be telling the story to Esun?
I get that she was trying to go for it surprise and being like, oh, Esu returns as a stone eater at the end. But I kind of just got the vibe and I picked up on it like pretty quick. I was like, okay, so this is Hoa telling the story. But I don't know. I think it was, I don't know if I loved it to say, because it was a lot of like, you know, you felt this way. But I just don't understand how he would have really understood that.
Yeah, okay.
That's how she felt, I guess.
I tend to always have kind of strong thoughts on that literary technique, right? Of being like, and in the end, someone wrote the whole story kind of thing.
Yeah.
I kind of love it and I kind of hate it.
Yeah.
But it's a choice. And especially for this series, it's a choice because we were talking in the first 2 books and in this book again, how incredibly impactful the point of view is. Because it like forces you as the reader to be put more in the shoes of everything as well. So you're even more involved. You're even more emotionally in it. Yeah. Which is incredible. I agree with you that I did kind of see it coming, but I tried to like put it in the back of my head. I tried to be like, okay, just don't think about it. Don't worry about it. Maybe it's not what you think at all. I don't know, whatever. And then it came and I still feel strongly neutral. Yeah. I don't know if that makes any sense, but I feel very strongly neutral about the whole thing.
I'm the same.
It was kind of cool, especially like this was a different take on that whole sort of wrap up. This was because of the point of view, but I don't know. I guess it's like I could have done without it, but I don't hate it as is. But I'm also like really curious though how they're going to do that in the show. Are they going to do that in the show?
I don't think they're going to do it in the show.
Because it's like, it would be so obvious immediately. You'd have like Hoa narrating.
Exactly, that's what I was going to say. If anything, they're going to have just Hoa be the narrator, and maybe they won't introduce Hoa, because he's introduced as a child in the first book, and we don't see him as a quotation adult, because again, he's a stone eater, so he's thousands of years old, but we don't see him as an adult into the second book. So I feel like they'll be able to sneakily get it away with it in the first season, I guess, because it'll be Hoa as an adult instead of Hoa as a child kind of thing.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to see.
So, Kim, what are some things that you did not like about this book?
Well, it was really slow. And as much as I love this story and the storytelling and the writing, this is like the only slow book that I will suffer through because I just enjoy the story and everything so much. But it was really slow. And it felt like not a lot happened.
Yeah, I feel that.
Too. It felt like the other 2 had so much action and then this one, like I felt like it could have been probably half the size. I don't know. Because it was like there was some important stuff in the beginning, and then the middle kind of just, like, very much lulled for me. The middle, even leaking towards the end, like, very lulled to me. And then, like, the very end, it was like, oh, okay, everything's happening now, kind of thing. Yeah, I don't know. What'd you think?
I have a few things.
Okay. Oh, God. Go for it. Jen's like, actually, guys, I fucking hated this book.
No. I loved the first book. The first book was so good. Second book, It was good. It lost me in a couple parts, but I enjoyed it. This one was definitely slower. I personally did not like the Hoa scenes, and I think that's what slowed it down. That slowed down the story a lot.
It did. It really did.
And it felt like too late to introduce this whole new subplot. I wish she would have introduced it in the second book. Maybe give a few chapters in there instead of saving it for this one, because it made it seem like the urgency kind of falls a little bit for how fast they need to get things done. Even though they were very, very important to the story, I didn't love it. In the end, I really wish we would have saw a callback to Kastrima and Ika.
Mm-hmm.
We just kind of just end the story. And I really wish we would have saw Kastrima doing better in the new place that they're at, or maybe worse. Maybe they're not progressing. Maybe they are all dying out. Like, I want to know more about Kastrima, because that's what Esun was starting to care about. Now I care about. And I want to know everything about what's going on with them.
I think they could have even been more involved in just the middle of the story as well. If they were there, but as like such a side dish, when it was like, it was established early on that like Esun, you know, they were all trying to convince Esun, and she was starting to learn that like she can't be just a solo person, right? That like that's just not going to work. That's not how she's good. Like, it's gonna be to her detriment the more that she isolates and alienates herself. I think it would have made more sense, honestly, if she would have opened up more to her people in her community, and that they would have been more impactful and helpful in the end with Naesun. And they don't know the full context for sure. It needed to still be Esun and Naesun, but like I think they could have been involved more.
Mm-hmm.
And that would have like wrapped up that part too, about being like, you have people, like you have a community kind of thing.
Exactly. That's actually the next thing I didn't really like, is that there was like no focus on the side characters. Like, especially in the second one, we get a lot. Like, they are a vital part for the story. But in this one, we get just nothing. We get the main three. We get Esun, Nasun, and Shafa. That's really all we really see. And what's his name? Lorna being the new kind of love interest for her, but she doesn't really latch onto, which I kind of love, that her romantic interests have never really been a huge push for her. A little bit in this with like Enon and Alabaster, that throuple vibe, but they've never really pushed her to accomplish things. But her being pregnant and then him dying.
Yeah. I forgot about that.
And then
him that even happened.
Dying. It was like a blink and he died, and I was like, wait, hold on, what? And then she just was walked off. Huh? Pardon me? I really wish there was more focus on the side characters. Like Tonki. I love Tonki. And I wish we would have saw more of her.
I agree. Also, even just speaking of side characters, like Shafa, I feel like was like a very intriguing character in the first one. And then also a very intriguing character in the second one. And then in this one, I felt like he was just kind of there for some plot bits. I didn't really like Shafa as a character. I wouldn't buy like a Funko Pop of Shafa, you know? I would buy a Funko Pop of some other characters. But that being said, he's still interesting, and I feel like we lost out on some Shafa in this.
That's actually the next thing I want to talk about, is Shafa's like point of view and like reason why he's in this story. I personally didn't like how attached Nasun got to him, and I completely understand why. It was maybe just go
Oh yeah, it was cringe. It was a little cringe.
It was a little cringe. And I understand, but it felt like he was kind of there to be the reason that she gets to the end, which is kind of bad to say, but he was literally just plot device. Like, he was there kind of just to get her there so that way they can start the whole track with the moon.
Like, it would have almost been more interesting if we would have just dropped Shafa fairly early on, and then maybe it would have been more like Nasun taking a lot more time to think through her stuff. And like, maybe she also went on like side adventures and kind of interacted with people that were complicated people, and maybe even seeing her struggling more with her thoughts, because it kind of was just like, she was like, I'm gonna kill everyone, and then she was like, I'm still gonna kill everyone. But does that make sense? Does any of that make sense?
Yeah, I gotcha. And I hate to say it, I do love this series so much, but when you do something like this where you're discussing the book instead of just kind of like taking it all in, it starts to unravel some things, and you're kind of like thinking about it, and you're like, well, was this kind of like that thought out, or it kind of, I don't know, I feel bad. I feel bad.
Well, no, but like, okay, and then that's something that I want to say is like, this series and any series, there will be parts of the series that you're not a fan of as much as the other parts. Like, that's just the nature of things that have multiple sections to them. TV shows, we see it with TV shows all the time. People will be like, oh my god, skip season 1, go straight to season 2, and then season 5 you can also skip, you know, like stuff like that.
Yeah.
You can still be a big fan of it at large. You don't have to say that you love everything about it. Star Wars fans, take note. I am a Star Wars fan. I feel very confident saying that I love certain films and hate other ones, and that's okay. But yeah, same with this. I love the series at large, and even if this book is not my favorite, even if this book like has moments that I'm kind of like, whatever, still really love it. Still really love the series as a whole.
Oh, yeah.
We'll still reread the whole series.
I think I just need to reread the whole thing again because I know I missed some more stuff. It's not necessarily a hard read, it's just dense. There's just so much in it that it can kind of get easy to get muddled about some stuff.
When the TV show comes out, and when we talk about it for my podcast, we will reread. And then maybe we'll notice things that we're like, oh my god, I know you already reread this, but like maybe I'll notice things, and I don't know. Yeah,
I definitely recommend rereading it. It helps.
Good.
I have a question for you.
Oh no, go ahead.
Do you think there's a possibility that Nessun could be Alabaster's daughter?
Huh.
I was thinking about this. To give it a little bit of timeline, Alabaster, pulled into the earth, Alimony, or whatever her stupid name was. Pulled her into the earth. Essun went to Terimo? Is that what it's called? Terimo?
I don't remember either. This is why I'm like...
I don't know. She goes to her new place. She left and lived there for 10 years. And then Nessun, she's 11 now, but when the book started, she was 9.
Oh.
She lived in Terimo for 10 years. So she could have had her maybe she met Jija right when she got there. Pretended that it was his daughter, but because she's so powerful, it doesn't make sense how Jija could be her dad.
Yeah, because literally, fuck that guy.
Yeah, absolutely. Worst character. So I was just, the whole time, I was sitting there and I was like, okay, so we get those letters from Alabaster when he is at the new place, Center Point or whatever it's called. He's stuck there. And I was like, oh my god, please, say that Cyanite was pregnant so that way I could click it together, but it never says. So I was just wondering, did that cross your mind when you were reading it? And if so, do you feel that vibe?
Weirdly not. So I don't think it crossed my mind. I think because, especially when it was revealed, aha, all these people are the same people kind of thing. It was one of those things where it happened so late that it was hard for me to put everything together in a timeline. But now that you're saying it, I kind of think, yeah.
It could happen.
It could happen. Conspiracy?
I love it. I love conspiracy theories in a book. Yeah, so favorite character. I think my favorite character, I could go with the classic, and I really do like Essun. I think she's a strong main character. She delivers so much, just everything for us. The drive, the passion, the morals, and...
It's about drive. It's about power.
It's about power.
It's about hunger.
Stop.
You gotta say it.
No, I think my favorite character, though, would have to be Father Earth.
Oh, that feels like a cop-out.
Okay, well, let me explain. If you would just give me 1 second. Father Earth, I think that... I like him because he's petty and he's resentful.
I like him because he's a petty bitch.
Yeah. He wants revenge, right, on the humans, because they try to drill into the core of the earth and try to pull that power without stopping and thinking, how would Earth feel about this? No, they didn't do that. And then, of course the humans don't know that he's a living conscious being. They don't know that.
Right.
But they never stopped and gave a second thought. And then the whole thing with his child. That's a whole nother subplot. And him being petty about that. But no, I think that he pulls into each of the characters, and I think his approach to each of the characters is different. They all use erogyny in a specific way, and I wish it was emphasized more on him being an actual character.
Honestly, my favorite character, this is going to sound a little bit like a cop-out.
You just repeat the same exact thing I just said.
My favorite character is Daddy Earth. My favorite character is probably Nessun. Again, going back to the fact that I respect her angst. And especially because, we all go through times of difficulty and people being jerks to us. Obviously, I'm not saying that I have the same experience that she does, because it's an incredibly different experience. However, I can relate to the fact that it's very easy and it's very human for us to have an angry reaction to those sorts of things.
Right.
And to just be fuck everything, let the world burn, etc., etc. Especially in this day and age, there's a lot of difficulty in the world, and we're seeing it everywhere a lot more than we ever were because of technology. So it's very easy and it's very human to react angry to that. I respect and I very much understand where she's coming from. And although it's clearly not right, and she learns in the end and has that character development, I guess I just like seeing that representation in such a way that like she is a protagonist to me.
Yeah.
At the very least. So it's very great to see like struggle and difficulty and anger inside of a protagonist. And I'm a big Star Wars fan.
What?
And I love like Anakin Skywalker.
No, you're not. Stop lying.
And that's kind of a similar sort of thing, but I do think that this story did it better.
Oh, shoot.
So yeah.
All right.
Yeah, that was a hot take.
Yeah, let's hop over to the antagonist of the story. I feel like there wasn't one exact pinpoint of a antagonist, because we have multiple villainess.
It's the moon.
Because I feel like a lot of people would say the Earth, because the Earth are doing these things because of the moon. It depends on whose point of view you're in. Because maybe, depending on the point of view, Esun might think it's the Earth, while Nasun might think it's Esun is the kind of the antagonist of the story. If you're with Shafa, it's himself half the time.
Yeah, it's that piece of iron in his brain.
Yeah, it's that little guy right there. And sometimes it's Jija that's the antagonist. And that was our antagonist in the first book, was Jija, finding him, knowing what's going on. But then when you find out he's dead, it kind of, I don't know, it eliminates a lot of that drive for us as readers to find out, oh, who's going to be the big bad guy? Because we don't really have one in this one.
Yeah. And I think, like, if you want to, like, break it down in a literary sense to, like, the conflict of it all, you know, is it, like, man versus self, man versus nature, whatever. I think technically it would file under, like, man versus self, because I think all of these characters are sort of fighting themselves.
Yeah.
But it's not really even themselves. It's sort of, like, what oppression and racism and sexism has affected in themselves and changed in themselves, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Really, the antagonist of the story is white people and racism.
Honestly?
Like, honestly.
Yeah, it is. It's...
And the moon.
Oh, yeah, and the moon. Don't forget the moon. And those boil bugs.
Oh, fuck those boil bugs. Dude, that was such a weird... I loved that moment. But, like, it was such a weird, like, hard moment. But I loved it.
Yeah.
That's gonna be great to see on TV.
No. Yeah, so just want to take a second here to shout out the Patreon subscribers.
So we here at the Bookstop Podcast, including myself, Kim, would like to give a huge shout out to Nick W., Bree P., Ashley A., Tim M., and Lulu. Honestly, thank all of you so incredibly much for supporting the show. It's a great freaking podcast, dude. We're on the 50th episode now. You guys are a huge part of us being able to do that, and Jen being able to continue this podcast and grow it even more. So thank you.
Thank you. I'm over here in tears.
She's crying, guys.
I'm crying. You guys are the reason why I keep doing this, and the support it's out of this world. It's on the moon at this point.
It's on the moon!
Even though we just said that he was the antagonist, but it's okay.
Yeah, fuck the moon.
If you guys would like to appear on the Patreon shout out, head over to Patreon and subscribe today. So who would you say in this book is your favorite relationship?
I'm so tempted to say Esun and Nasun, because they do have the core relationship of the book. So I do want to say that. But my secondary favorite relationship, which is what I'm going to talk about more, is going to be Nasun and the moon, actually.
Okay.
It's not a person-to-person relationship. It's a different type of relationship. I really love it. Nasun is realizing more of herself and her power within her relationship to the moon, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that's fucking incredible, because I think anything in your life that makes you understand more of your own potential and capabilities is incredibly important, even if it is like a moon or whatever. But I think that that's just like a really fascinating part of this book. But I really do think that that's like my favorite dynamic, so to speak, is Nasun and how she views the moon as sort of an object for her to use, and yet at the same time it is not really a source of her power, but a source of her recognition of her own power.
I loved how the moon kind of shifted through all of these books. With first one, we literally find out with the last line that the moon has a role in it at all. And then the second one, how the moon is this mysterious being, and, you know, we don't really know anything about it except that it's going to destroy the world. And then with the last one, with it ending the way it does.
Mm-hmm.
My favorite relationship, obviously, Esun and Nasun is like top tier. It's the whole reason why this book even exists. I really liked how we start to understand between each character why the other one made the decisions that they made.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Whether that be daughter with mother or mother with daughter. My main relationship, though, I would have to say is Nasun and the Sapphire.
Ooh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, I found it very compelling every time that she kind of pulled from the Sapphire. There was trust there. She trusted the Sapphire with whatever she needed, and there was that strength that she pulled from it. It felt like the Sapphire was almost like maybe Ucha, her brother, along the lines of like maybe a family or a relative. The only thing is just I wish there was a little bit more, maybe history with it. And that's on all of the obelisk gates, like all of the obelisks. I wish there was more history on that.
Yeah, that might even have helped flesh out this book even more.
Absolutely.
Quick fun fact about sapphires. I'm having deja vu thinking that we already talked about this. Please stop me if we've already talked about this. But sapphire is my birthstone.
Mm-hmm.
Fun fact.
Yes.
It also is as hard or ever so slightly almost as hard as diamonds. And diamonds are used in like saws and crazy things, but sapphire is like one of the only other incredibly hard gemstones.
That's crazy because my birthstone is diamond. And me and you are just, the two of the hardest people.
I just got like so like, I can't even explain the emotion I just had. It was like jealousy? Yeah, probably that. You being like, wow, that's crazy. You think sapphire is really strong? Well, guess what?
I'm stronger. I have one more question for you. I have another question.
Okay.
And it's kind of about the book in general. First, let me ask, what do you classify as a masterpiece within a book? And then would you classify this book as a masterpiece? Or you could do this series.
Whoa, deep. I really fucking like this question. I would definitely classify this series as a masterpiece. And I think it goes back to, the fact that the type of fantasy is so unique and so well thought out, and the fact that the characters are incredibly three-dimensional. And that's something that I love about, again, this is maybe like my third time mentioning Game of Thrones, but that's something I love about that show and that story is everything is so incredibly well developed and all of the characters are incredibly three-dimensional. Mm-hmm. And this series is that as well. Also has that element of such a unique form of fantasy. It's a little bit hard to follow in the beginning because we're so new to it.
Yeah.
Really loved it. I really think it's a very elegant fantasy in that sense. And yet it tackles incredibly difficult and complex subject matter.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So what about you?
I want to first classify that I think having a book, quote unquote, masterpiece is something that I just don't think it's a realistic gauge. I've said this before, but I think that art is subjective.
You have said, and I quote, art is subjective and music is art. You have said those exact words.
I have on the last podcast that we did on yours.
I needed to remind your audience, and especially your Patreon subscribers, Jen has a way with words.
Stop. Shut up. You're done. Yeah, so I think that art is subjective and book it art. Book it art.
Art. Can we get matching tattoos?
Yeah, for sure.
Hell yeah.
No, sorry. I think that, literature in itself is so hard to gauge on being a masterpiece. Like, I can understand the talent perspective of it. If you're looking at a painting and you're looking at the ability of being able to put paint to a canvas, you can have your perspective of being a masterpiece. Now, for a book, I feel like there's so many different ways that a book can be perceived, where to somebody else it might be what you would call a masterpiece, and to somebody else it might be a piece of trash.
Yeah, a great example is the book Dune. Some people really enjoy that book, and I do not.
Yeah, exactly.
But some people would call that a masterpiece, and I would be like, you're wrong, but okay.
I think it could be a classic is a better word that I would describe, is that I could see this becoming something very popular soon and then eventually becoming a classic. Mm-hmm. Something that everyone should read and get to experience. But I would never classify a book as a quote-unquote masterpiece. Like, my favorite book series, The Foxhole Court, is not a good series. It's not A+ in many departments, but to me, it is A+. It is a masterpiece because I love it so much. But yeah, that's just my opinion, I guess.
All right. I mean, that's totally valid. Art is subjective, and
book is art.
Do you
want to play a game?
Yeah, let's play a game. I'm gonna fail this game. Let's go.
Yeah, you are gonna fail this game. I'm very excited.
Well, what a transition. And you knew exactly what you were doing. It was like I was technically making fun of you, and then you were like, hang on, can we make fun of you? And I was like, fine, okay.
Okay, so Kim, can you go ahead and describe kind of what a season is in this book?
A catastrophe, a natural disaster.
Yeah, absolutely. Over a X amount of time, a masterpiece of destruction.
Ooh.
Ooh.
Stunning.
So I am going to read through, I'm just going to give you like a couple sentences, and you are going to tell me which one it is, and I will tell you if you're wrong or not.
All right, you're going to be telling me I'm wrong a lot. Let's go.
Okay. The eruption of Mount Amok blanketed a 500-mile radius with fine ash clouds that solidified in the lungs.
I'm going to say that is the choking season?
It is.
Yes. Oh, hell yeah.
A sudden plate shift birthed a chain of volcanoes in a path of a major jet stream. This jet stream became acidified, flowing towards the west coast and eventually around most of the stillness.
Was this the acid season?
It is.
Yes. Look at me. If you hadn't given me a word bank, I would have 0 right now.
Yeah.
A
series of eruptions during monsoon season increased humidity and obscured sunlight over approximately 20% of the continent for 6 months. The timing created perfect conditions for a fungal bloom that spread across the stillness.
Ooh, the fungus season. Mm-hmm.
You did it.
Mushrooms abound.
This eruption launched millions of gallons of steams and particle into the air, which triggered acid rain.
Is this the boiling season?
It is.
Ooh, nice.
For unknown reasons, a widespread bacterial bloom toxified nearly all sea life and caused coastal famines for several decades.
Was this the season of yellow seas?
It is.
Ooh, I'm doing so good.
I should have gave you the word bank, huh?
Yeah, you shouldn't have. I would be completely failing.
A mild season featuring occasional sunlight and no ashfall. The remaining mass could only be isolated, where it continued to burn for 109 years. The smoke of this spread via winds, causing respiratory issues and mass suffocation.
Ooh, I'm caught between 2 for this one. But I'm going to say, is this the season of changed wind?
It is not.
Is this the breathless season?
It is the breathless season.
Dang it, I should have guessed that one. Okay.
An aftershock of oceanic shake, a previously unknown hotspot near the North Pole. This triggered a supervolcanic explosion. Ash spread around the globe rapidly through the Arctic, which was heavily affected.
I don't even know, to be honest. The twin season?
It's the season of teeth.
That was the season of teeth?
Yeah, there was really nothing...
Nothing teethy.
Oh, it's reports of cannibalism spread from the north.
Ew.
Okay, I did not see that line.
Okay, that's the season of teeth. Okay.
That's the season of teeth. The eruption of one volcano vent caused a 3-year occlusion. As this began to clear, it was followed by a second eruption from a different vent.
This is the twin season.
This is the twin season. The eruption of multiple vents of an ancient supervolcano launched large deposits of dark-colored minerals into the air. This resulted in 10 years of darkness, and in a higher than usual incidence of mental illnesses.
Ooh, the madness season?
Mm-hmm. For unknown reasons, the direction of the winds shifted for many years before returning back to normal.
I'm gonna guess that this is the season of changed wind.
That it is. That it is. Now that I'm like reading through these are actually a lot easier than I thought they were gonna be, because they kind of explain it pretty well.
And I got a really good score on that.
Yeah, you got 2 of them wrong, so not too bad, not too bad.
Not too bad.
Yay! Good job!
We did it! Thank you for giving me a word bank.
Oh, yes.
That helped a lot.
Absolutely. That would have been really mean if I didn't get one.
True. I think I probably would have tried to guess like 1 or 2, and I might have gotten like 2 right. But
you wouldn't have gotten any of them, let's be honest.
All right, Jen.
What would you say, in your own opinions, your own words, what are some things that you would have done differently, would have changed? For me especially, I really wish there was that callback to Ika and Kostrima at the end. Obviously, I would have really liked to know like what happened to her possible future, like what happened to Tonki and what happened to, obviously we don't happen to Lorna, but what happened to like everyone else. And I also really liked to see, like, I wish there was an epilogue where we saw Nasun in the future. Maybe Esun is watching her from a distance as she's like growing older, and maybe she's a mom now. I really would have liked a post, like what happens many years down the line. And I think Hoa's chapters should have just been a little bit earlier or introduced in the second book.
Yeah.
At least some of them were introduced.
I completely agree with that. And I also think, kind of like we talked before, really anything more of importance to Shafa, and especially anything more to Kostrima, yes. More of that and more of other relations to Esun. Not like blood relations, but other people within her like newfound community, and how they went into the story. Because again, they sort of just like kind of faded off.
Yeah.
It like didn't really hold much weight. So I think that was a missed opportunity there. And then I also think, again, I really agree with you that we missed an opportunity to explore Nesun at the end of this and where she is. Did she die?
It never really said.
Yeah, it was very, like, we just didn't get a wrap up.
Yeah, she sat with the body of her mom, because obviously they couldn't move her. She was pure stone. They sat with her. And I think Ika might have came up, or maybe it was Hoa, I can't remember exactly, came up to her and was, like, talking to her about, like, moving on.
Yeah, and that was, like, really it.
Well, thank you for coming, and before we go, we do one last thing. We are going to do a little bit of a rating scale, but we did a little bit different here on the Book Stop. We make up our own thing. So I would give The Stone Sky by N.K. Jemisin 7 women in power out of 10.
Oh, you know what? I was also going to rate mine 7 out of 10, but also, hell yeah, I love that scale.
It was not the strongest out of the series. Like, I'm really happy to finally finish the series in, like, a good way. Like, I'm glad that I finally know what happens.
Yeah.
I really wish we would have had that more focus on the side characters. I think it's a great story for Esun, though. As sad as it sounds, I'm really glad that she kind of came, like, at the end, she died. Like, it sounds bad, but I'm glad that she was able to do something for her daughter that was good, and that might have set up better for her. We just don't really know what happens at the end. But yeah, it was a good ending for this trilogy.
I'm giving it 7 out of 10 moons. It was a satisfying conclusion in many ways. It did fall short of some of the depth that we were getting as far as action and that sort of thing goes, some of the depth that we were getting in the first 2, but the trade-off was a far greater depth to specifically just the 2 main characters, right? Even though we lost some of the other characters, we got deeper with the 2 main characters and all of that included, which I think was fair and very valid. And I think also understanding that N.K. Jemisin's mother was, dying throughout her writing this book, or she died, right?
Yeah, she was in the process of, like, losing her mother. I don't know the extent of, like, if she was already gone or if she was grieving. Like, she was in the process of it.
Right. But nonetheless, a grieving of sorts regardless. I think it shows in a very powerful way. I guess what's like a metaphor that I could use for this book is sort of like if you wanted a chocolate...
Grass is greener on the other side.
Maybe. I was going with a weird dessert thing, but like we could go with that too. I was going to be like, if you wanted like a hot fudge sundae for dessert, this wouldn't be a hot fudge sundae. This is
Life is like a box of chocolates.
You know what? Some people say that life, it's kind of like a box of chocolates, right? You just never know what you're gonna get.
Okay, we gotta go.
We gotta go.
Thank you so much for not only coming on this time, but last time, and the time before that, and the time before that, and celebrating the 3rd year of the Book Stop and this good old 5-0 on the podcast.
Hell yeah. And honestly, thank you for every time that you've had me on here, for every time that you've been on my podcast. I look forward to another incredible year with the Book Stop. Thank you. Happy 50th.
Thank you. We'll be on again, me and Kim. We will be going back and forth again.
Yeah, something about a dragon and training it and...
Yeah, that is on yours. That is on yours. Oh, you guys are going to have to come and listen to my favorite movie in the whole wide world. But yeah, we're going to have to find a new book to open the year with, a new series.
Yeah.
So.
Oh yeah, we're gonna have to keep the tradition alive.
Oh yeah,
sure.
absolutely.
Nice.
All right. Well, thank you so much again, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Thank you for turning the pages with us today. If you've enjoyed this episode, show your support by leaving a review, sharing the episode, and following the podcast on Instagram at The Bookstop Podcast. Join us on Patreon for early access to episodes and other additional content. Thank you for listening, and I'm looking forward to the next one. Hope you are too.